Hello, you're watching Colors of Asia. First of all, I would like to thank you all for the interest in our program, for your caring attitude to everything that our creative team does. We very much appreciate it. In return, we're always happy to work for the benefit of our television audience. In today's program, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Azerbaijan are among the strongest sport powers, factories of the famous athletes, World and Olympic Games champions. It's no secret that sports life in the countries of our region is quite bright. We have many types of sports that bring together millions of fans. We have many sports stars who are rightfully considered the national pride and role models. Like, for example, this young man. He is a representative of one of the most beloved sports of Kazakhstan, boxing. It must be admitted that until a certain period, mainly amateur boxing was developed in Kazakhstan, which gave the world not only the famous Kazakh style of boxing, but also many champions. But in professional boxing, we're relatively new, but have already managed to put our name on the map. What, for example, is our Gennady Golovkin worth? Well, this young athlete has every reason to become the new world champion in his weight category. Viktor Kotochigov is one of the top boxers of Kazakhstan. The press calls him the Kazakh king. And this is true, because this professional boxer in a short period of time managed to make himself known, win 10 out of 10 fights, win the vacant secondary belt of WBC International, and remain undefeated and one of the most promising boxer in the world ranking. It would seem that this all could get into the young man's head, but it didn't. Our team managed to visit the athlete's personal training session, watch the process, and of course, speak with him. Admittedly, Viktor's hard work, good physical training, endurance, discipline are immediately conspicuous. Moreover, he turned out to be a simple, modest, and a very pleasant person.
В детстве мы, когда были малышами совсем, мы всегда равнялись на ребят с зала, которые были.
When we were kids, we always looked up to the guys from the gym, who were much older than us, who showed good results. Even our first coach set us an example, one of the guys from the gym who showed good results, so that we could look up to them. We have a lot of people from Taraz. This is Yermakhan Ibrahimov, Bakhtiar Artayev. Of course, we looked up to these older guys. Among professionals, this is our people's champion, Gennady Golovkin. First of all, he was the one who opened the way for many athletes in professional boxing, proved that anyone can go box, show results, and that everything is possible.
Показал то, что реально можно уехать простому парню и боксировать, показывать результаты, то что все возможно.
Viktor used to be an amateur boxer and admits that he did not achieve much there, but in professional boxing, the first time he got in the ring, it went great. This happened in Shanghai, where the young boxer was invited to act as an opponent, and he defeated the local star. It was hard, but it was fateful, because after that, Viktor decided to work in professional boxing.
Там совсем другой бокс, другая подготовка.
It's a completely different boxing, different training. I like the R. I liked it. And I decided to box professionally. Actually, I have 2 titles. I won the first title in Poland. It was a year and a half ago. I was invited as an opponent too. I was a complete underdog against a Polish boxer. This is the international title of champion of Poland. It can be claimed by boxers from other countries. I won the title fight against a local boxer, and the second title is significant. This is WBC International. This is an international WBC champion. This is the third most important title. First official, WBC Gold, then Silver International. And you already have good rankings. And if you have a couple of other fights, well, with top boxers, you can claim a full championship title. And if you have a couple of other successful fights with top boxers, you can claim a full championship title. Talking about his profession, Viktor admitted that he loves it. At the same time, he added that it requires a lot. Otherwise, it's unlikely that it will work out.
Это очень сложная работа. Это очень сложная. И психологически.
This is a very difficult job. This is very difficult both psychologically and physically. Sometimes there are moments when everyone wants to quit. You think, why is this all for? You get tired, you get all kinds of injuries, pressure before the fight, cutting loss. It gets really hard sometimes.
Все вот это накладывается, и вот реально иногда бывает тяжело.
While we were arranging our interview with the athlete, he immediately warned our team that we would have to wait for him for at least an hour and a half. And we were amazed that during all this time, Viktor practically didn't sit down in order to rest and catch a breath.
Тренировки разные. Есть общий физический.
Trainings are different. There is general physical training, first you gain physical training. That is, we run, cross-train so we could work out our breath. Also, there is a special work with a coach, sparrings, different workouts.
Специальная работа с тренером, спарринги. Работа разнообразная, разная. Перед боем, да, постоянные плотные.
Before the fight, there is constant two-time training according to the regime. And after a fight, you give yourself a little rest, but still you maintain physical shape. You play football, you swim, you run. You have to keep yourself up all the time.
Бегаешь. Ты должен постоянно себя держать в тонусе.
Askar Nurmagomedov is a professional coach. He once competed in amateur boxing, then moved on to coaching. Today, he mainly lives in the United Arab Emirates, where he trains local boxers. Recently, he has been visiting his homeland a lot, since he accepted an invitation from a professional Kazakhstan boxing club to work with our fighters. One of them is Viktor Kotochigov. Askar himself is still young. In this regard, the question, what is the difference between coaching and boxing on the ring, arose.
Ну, это две разные вещи, конечно. Когда боксируешь, ты сам...
Well, that's two different things. When you box, you get your own adrenaline. I mean, you live in your own world. And when you're a coach, that's a different story. You basically focus on your boxer. Motivate him. What you didn't achieve in boxing, you want your trainee to achieve. That's the incentive, the first motivation, to make your boxer the world champion, to make him famous and a good boxer.
Известным, хорошим боксером.
And judging by what we are seeing now, the coach himself should always be in good physical shape.
Да, это всегда так происходит, потому что ты...
Yes, it always happens this way, because you have to give your boxer the pace he needs, and you always need to move so not to stuck in one place.
Передвигаться, чтобы на одном месте не стоял никто.
Accordingly, I work as a coach. For example, when he's using boxing pads, exercising, then I also have to move because I'm kind of an opponent for him. I have to move to give him the training load so he can withstand them.
Чтобы он выдерживал вот эти нагрузки. У нас сейчас вот только развивается, вот, если честно, только развивается в Казахстане профессиональный бокс. Что такое профессиональный бокс? Раньше вот...
We just started developing professional boxing in Kazakhstan. Previously, 10 years ago, it was not popular because only amateur boxing was popular. Now we're adopting something from the Americans. It's no secret. We also learned some things from Mexicans. But basically, 80% is purely Kazakh boxing style. Because our boxing is smart, we always teach boxers not to box dirty, so that everything is clean and smart. The most important thing is mind.
Всегда стараемся учить боксеров, что грязно не боксировал, чтобы боксировал чисто и умно боксировал. Самое главное вот этот ум.
Тактика, она каждому бою разная, каждому сопернику, вот именно в профессионалах она совсем разная.
The tactics are different in each fight, different for each opponent. You treat each fighter individually. Somewhere you can be the aggressor, and somewhere you have to be the tag boxer. This is what they say in boxing slang.
Техничным боксером, как вот говорят на боксерском сленге, с технарем надо рубить.
You need to fight with a technician, and with the one who comes at you, you need to box cleverly. There should be a clever work on the ring. You always have to use your head.
Должна быть работа в ринге умная, всегда должна работать голова. Никогда нельзя настраиваться на нокаут. Нокаут, он приходит всегда.
You can never tune into a knockout. A knockout comes by itself during a fight. You have to prepare yourself and count on the distance. You've got to have some strength inside of you. I think every smart, competent boxer never hopes to get knocked out. Comes during the fight. So I don't have one either. I never strive to knock out. I don't tune into this. Of course, I want to end the fight beautifully ahead of schedule, but all this comes during the fight by itself.
Красиво, досрочно. Но это все приходит во время боя. Когда я вот начинаю переодеваться, когда уже готовлюсь потихоньку к бою, на меня...
When I'm getting changed for a fight, I get a little athletic jitters. I think this is an advantage because it gives a person a certain mood. You kind of tune into the fight, and there's a little drive. And when you get on the ring, you're all set, but you're not uptight.
Как бы и присутствует такой немного драйв. Когда ты заходишь в ринг, ты уже полностью как бы собран, получается. Собран, но не скован.
As an athlete and champion, Viktor Kotochigov categorically does not accept bad habits, a night lifestyle. He has a strict, balanced diet, a strict daily routine. But there are so many temptations around.
Соблазнов много, но совсем не скучно жить. Я веду активный...
There's a lot of temptation, but it's not boring to live like this. I lead an active, healthy lifestyle. In winter, I ski. In our mountains on Chimbolak, we go camping all the time. Spending time with my family, my wife. I have a little daughter. A lot of interesting things. On the contrary, sometimes there is not even enough time. I have a lot of positive, active entertainment. A lot of things to do.
Очень много можно чем заняться.
Currently, the boxer and his mentors are training hard because they have plenty of plans for the near future.
Планов очень много. Конечно, перспектив, без перспективы не бывает.
We have a lot of plans. Of course, we want to box with the top world boxers.
Попробовать боксировать с топовыми боксерами в мировом рейтинге.
Есть несколько ребят.
There are several top boxers who I want to box with. If everything is fine next year, we will be fighting for the title. For now, the goal is to make fights with bright boxers from my weight category. And now we want to introduce you to one of the youngest champions in the history of the Olympic Games. This charming young man is rightfully among the most respected and unique people in Azerbaijan. Why? Because after the collapse of the Soviet Union, none of the Azerbaijani athletes managed to win Olympic gold. And he became the first athlete who, in 2012, at the Olympic Games in London, won the championship and forced all of Azerbaijan to shed a tear of joy and happiness. You have to agree, it's a big deal. He came to his first training at the age of 5 and it was judo hall, but then he was transferred to the freestyle wrestling section, probably not by accident. Because in this sport, he was able to make a name for himself and find world recognition. At the age of 16, he won his first gold medal at the European Championship. 2 years later, he became a winner of the Junior World Championship. Azerbaijani freestyle wrestler Togrul Askerov is the first Olympic champion born in independent Azerbaijan and the youngest Olympic champion of this country. Since 2003, I've been doing freestyle wrestling. Before that, I was doing judo. My coach began to send me to freestyle wrestling classes so that I could learn how to use my legs. And it just so happened that I really liked freestyle wrestling, and I didn't return in judo. I was fascinated by the suit of the wrestler and those celebrities who I met in training, and I stayed. A year and a half later, I began to show results at junior competitions, and later, I became a champion of Europe among juniors. I began to compete in the championships since 2007. The first major competition for me was the Republican Championship. I took third place though, but it was a good motivation for me to keep on going. And the following year, I took the first place. And then the competitions at the European Championship among juniors started. Then in 2011, I became the champion of the Republic among adults. In the same year, when I was 17, I won silver at the World Championship. Togrul Askerov always speaks with respect and great love about his grandfather. He's grateful to him because it was his grandfather who noticed the talent of his grandson and saw a future champion in him. My grandfather loved sports very much. He did wrestling when he was young. When he brought me a little boy, he said to the coach that he gave him an Olympic champion and European champion. It made the coach smile. Of course, it was okay to the coach to smile and wonder. Imagine that someone says that some little boy is a future champion, then you will be definitely surprised. It's been years, and as if my grandfather felt it, that I will become a champion, he believed in me. And when I became the champion of Europe, my grandfather came to my coach and reminded him of his words. I've always believed in myself. This is sport. There are ups and downs. When I lose, I keep up my spirit. On the contrary, I try harder to win. I train even more. I gain strength to become the first next time. I know I can. Wrestling is a constant discipline to comply with the regime. You have to keep on training. Listen to the coach. It's just one little thing. No one can be forced to do sports. If someone has that desire, he'll do it. If not, then it's waste of time. Only those athletes can succeed who have real intentions, who strive to reach the top. Without aspirations, it's simply impossible to win, to succeed. According to Togrul, the 2010 World Championship, which was held in Moscow, was the most exciting for him, because he was only 18 years old. It's a very young age for the wrestler to participate in adult competitions. But Togrul was able to show fighting character, won a silver medal, and made it clear to other famous athletes that in the world of freestyle wrestling, there is a young, talented athlete worthy of recognition and respect. This tournament played a crucial role in his career and became a big lesson. Therefore, at subsequent competitions, Togrul went to the mat more confident. Thanks to it, there were many interesting, memorable moments in his sports life. The best moments for me were the 2012 Olympic Games, the 2015 European Games, and the 2016 Olympic Games. They've played a big part in my life, in my career. I want to say that our victories are not just for us. After all, we give a great incentive to those who do sports, who want to reach great heights. I also received an incentive from our champions and set the goal of being like them, to become the first. In 2012, at the Olympic Games in London, 19-year-old Togrul performed so confidently and successfully that he reached the final. And it was already a sensation. In the most responsible match, he faced the four-time world champion, the winner of 2008 Olympics, Kotochigov, from Russia. Today, many recall that all Togrul's compatriots watched this event. And in the end, having defeated the opponent in all rounds, the young athlete made the whole country proud of him. It was something. The whole Azerbaijan was celebrating. On that day, everybody knew about this victory and the first Olympic gold of an independent republic. Definitely, this fact has become historical. After the 2012 Olympics, I had a surgery on my knees. Rehabilitation took 2 years. The first European Games of 2015 in Baku became a kind of arena where I was able to show myself after a long recovery. There were very strong rivals. It was hard to win, but still I was able to prove myself. Today, many remember the 2015 World Freestyle Wrestling Championship in Las Vegas. It brings back unpleasant memories for Togrul, since he successfully reached the quarterfinals and defeated the Italian Frank Chimiso. But for unknown reasons, the judges did not count his victory. The team sent a complaint against such a decision, after which a special commission was created which confirmed the error of judgment. Alas, this did not affect the result. Chimiso eventually reached the final and became the world champion. On the other hand, Togrul won a license for the Olympic Games in Rio. I could become the world champion among adults. In 2016, I became the silver medalist of the Olympic Games in Rio. It was a great experience for me. In each sphere, there are visible and invisible parts. We train for years. We use our strength and energy on going out on the mat in front of millions of spectators, showing what we have learned. Viewers see only those 5 minutes. And it all depends on how you can use your experience in those few minutes. and whether this leads to victory or defeat. Preparing for competitions is a special responsibility. First, you need to overcome yourself inside. Only after that you can win the opponent. There is no easy victory. Each opponent is strong in his own way. If you say that the opponent is weak, then you can lose. During the fight, I sometimes use techniques that I don't even know at all. That is, I didn't train them, I never used them in trainings. During the wrestling, I kind of feel I need to use this certain technique. After the fight, the coach or the guys ask me how I did it. I say that I don't know. Apparently, each wrestler has its own inner strength. Currently, Togrul Askerov is actively preparing for many competitions. The most responsible and significant are the Tokyo Olympic Games. For the wrestler freestyle from Baku, they will become the third in his sports career. And of course, he has a dream and a goal to properly represent his country at these games and win. Fight without contact between rivals. There is such a sport, and it's called mass wrestling. It has a great future, and there is a chance that it will be included in the program of the Olympic Games. By the way, the sport is becoming more popular in Kyrgyzstan and is annually included in the calendar of sporting events. "32-year-old Sergei Zenov started his sports career as a teenager. Like many of his peers, at first he tried himself in many sports. Why not? This is so typical of boys, when you want to know and try everything to test your capabilities. For a long time he moved from one sports club to another, from one coach to another. And one day, he became interested in an unusual type of wrestling, which he was fascinated by in a special way. And then finally he really felt comfortable. This was what can be called 100% your sport. And today, Sergei is the winner of the Republican Championship as well as the winner of the bronze medal of the World Cup in mass wrestling.
Начинал вообще с вольной борьбы. Это еще в школе было. Потом попал в руки очень замечательный.
Actually, I started with freestyle wrestling. It was at school. Then I trained with Alexander Zhukov, a wonderful sambo coach. I trained with him for 3-4 years. And then I got to the coach Jibek Chikirov.
Акцент был на бой без правил. Ну и там
There was already an emphasis on fights without rules. He also taught grappling, which I really liked. Sambo and grappling are actually very similar sports. I was very interested. Sports was always there, but I had a job in the first place. Then I went into the training hall, began to train in the hall. Sports became my hobby, but also a lifestyle.
Я больше времени уделял спорту, какой-то период времени меньше уделял времени. Вот.
In some period of time, I spent more time in sports, and on other things, I spent less time. But in any case, it requires some serious amount of time. I began to engage in sports consciously from the 9th grade. I began to train with a friend. Training hall, basement, all iron rides. Then we looked for ourselves. We tried the wrestling, then kickboxing. Mass wrestling is some third, even fourth part of my entire sports life. I came to mass wrestling from powerlifting because power indicators are important there. Not as much stamina as power is needed.
Там нужны, говорю, силовые показатели, там не так нужна выносливость, как именно нужна силовая. Именно сила, да? Взрывная сила, вот.
Mass wrestling is a unique sport. It requires universal general training. In pulling the stick, athletes sit against each other. With their feet, they rest against the stop board, which is located along the middle line of the platform. Hands grab the stick, which should be parallel above the stop board. At the command of the judge, opponents begin to pull a stick. Victory is awarded if the athlete pulled over the opponent, and the stick remained in his hands. Mass wrestling in Kyrgyzstan is called tayak tartash, which literally translates from the Kyrgyz language as pulling the stick. In ancient times, nomads by pulling a stick strengthened the hull and thereby prepared for combat. Mass wrestlers have a strongly pectoral muscle sling.
в древности как бы кыргызы, если по истории смотреть, они тоже как бы боролись. Какие-то источники говорят, что просто
If you look into the history in ancient times, the Kyrgyz also wrestled. Some sources say that just two rivals sat down and just put feet against each other. That is, with their feet they sat against each other and pulled the whip. Some sources say that there was a board. There is a history that Kyrgyz people were also engaged in this sport. All the set muscles are involved. That is, it seems that only legs and hands. But when I first tried, I had a pain for 2-3 days, although I was a trained athlete.
На следующий день и там дня 2-3, наверное, у меня все как бы так побаливало. И шея.
And the neck and the fingers and the legs and the abs, all the muscles are involved. And what's interesting about this kind of sport? For example, in boxing there are controversial moments when you can make a draw. But here there are no controversial moments. There's only one winner, and there can be no other.
Когда можно сделать ничью, или как бы этот выиграл, вроде бы этот тоже выиграл, а здесь только один есть победитель и один есть проигравший.
In 2015, 20 countries represented by the strongest athletes took part in the final stage of the World Cup in Moscow. The national team of Kyrgyzstan performed successfully at these competitions. Athletes competed in 12 weight categories. The most numerous trainees were from Russia, the USA, and Ukraine. Kyrgyzstan was represented by 5 athletes, each of whom won 1 medal. Sergei Zenov was one of them. Today he recalls how he got to this championship.
Сделали отборочные соревнования и нас повезли в Якутию. Вот. В Якутии я выступил, как бы, проиграл, неудачно для себя. Меня что-то зацепило, и я стал...
A qualifying round was held and were taken to Yakutia. In Yakutia, I performed unsuccessfully. I lost. But I got caught up in something and I started to do more mass wrestling. And a year later, we had the final stage of the cup on Issyk, where I took the 2nd place. At the 2nd stage, I did not participate. I went to the 3rd stage of the cup, which was held in Moscow, since it was before the new year and I had free time. I won and took the 3rd place. The team also took 3rd place. Since 2014, I have been intensively engaged in mass wrestling. And the first World Cup I took a place in the all-team championship. In total of 3 stages, I took 3rd place in the World Cup. That is, there were athletes from all over the world. This, in fact, is the same as the World Cup, but it's divided. This is to popularize the sport. Here I won the Republican and city competitions and other fights.
Это для популяризации этого вида спорта. А здесь, получается, республику я выигрывал, Бишкек выигрывал, и какие-то еще определенные были соревнования, тоже выиграл.
Due to back injury, Sergei Zenov has not yet planned to participate in major competitions. At some point in his life, he even thought about quitting the sport.
Я на тот момент думал, как бы, чуть приостановить, потому что из-за масс-рестлинга у меня, чуть спина.
I thought that because of this sport, I had this trauma. In this regard, I was thinking of suspending sports activities. When I was asked earlier, I said that I was about to quit. Then suddenly, I returned to the sport. Therefore, at the moment, I don't know what will happen next. We'll see. A lot depends on the mood. If I'm in the mood, it's going to happen again. We need to stand till the end.
На данный момент пока не знаю. Посмотрим, как бы. От этого много зависит от настроя.
The most important thing is to prepare properly, because excuses are for the weak.
Поставил себе задачу, правильно подготовиться, чтобы...
Moreover, try to say something after losing. You need to prepare yourself to be satisfied. I'd like to be well prepared to start, and then we'll see.
Правильно выйти, чтобы довольным быть. Я бы хотел хорошенько подготовиться для начала. А потом посмотрим.
According to the athlete, the mass wrestlers of Kyrgyzstan have great potential. They have a quite high level of training, and if mass wrestling is included in the program of the Olympic Games, then there is every reason to hope that they will confidently be among the leaders and may forever remain in history.
На сегодня все. Это был очередной выпуск программы.
That's all for today. You have watched Colors of Asia. See you next time on Kazakh TV channel.
В эфире телеканала Казах ТВ.